and on Facebook as well, go live. Let me switch those screens over. A lot of screens going on, a lot of live streams going on. Hello, everyone. Hello, Hoogie. Hello, Paul Shark 01. Hello, Smiley. Hello, RVF No. Content Sheds here as well. Hello to all of you. Thanks so much for jumping in. Hello also over on the podcast. Hello on Facebook. Hello on YouTube. Welcome to Startup Business Q&A. So this is all your questions on startup businesses. This is focusing, hello Kelly Neville, all focusing today on the important question of engagement. I'm going to keep tapping hello and waving to everyone who comes in onto Instagram. A load of notices, but a load of wonderful things ahead. So thank you very much, firstly, for a load of people who sent through some really good questions on this. We're going to focus on engagement today, meaning any questions relating to engagement, how you build it, what to do with it, where it comes from, and so on. To do with typically social media, but also building your business, then stick them in here in the comments. I'm very much focusing on Facebook as well as Instagram for that. But wherever you are in the world, let me know where you are so I can see, and also give me a few thumbs up so I can, so more people will be aware that this stream is on. Those who are listening on a replay as well, it's just some important notices for everyone. Firstly, a really important notice about the entrepreneur brand that we'll be working on, so the entrepreneur business brand. Those of you who know already, or those that you even don't need to get into this, there is a free Facebook group. We've just ticked over 3,500 members. If you go to Facebook and type entrepreneur business group, you will find it. And in that group, you can join for free, and there's a lot of great content there with a wonderful set of people. The Entrepreneur Business Club is the more premium space, which is more of a collaborative forum-based group, and that has up until recently been on the Slack platform, so which is therefore off Facebook. We're going to pivot, which means that we're going to move that Entrepreneur Business Club quite soon. Not today, probably not this week, but soon. We'll go from Slack to a closed Facebook group. So those of you from the Entrepreneur Business Group, the free one, that have gone up a level to Entrepreneur Business Club, we're going to be migrating to Facebook soon. Overwhelmingly, like everyone has said, yes, please, onto Facebook, because Slack has the mechanisms that could work, but culturally, none of us are going to actually use it. So that's important. And we will be moving over soon. Other point as well, so a couple of other things, the Entrepreneur Business Live brand, so the events we've got, which is on the 25th of July. So that's Wednesday in about 2 weeks from now. That has it has some great speakers there. Make sure you're attending. If you're in London, you haven't registered yet, go to my profile on Instagram, and the link is in the bio, or go to Facebook and you can check out one of the recent posts about that. I go to Eventbrite basically, and you can buy your ticket for free. There is free networking, of course, afterwards, after the four speakers, and there's free beer as well. I'm going to be announcing the next speaker probably at the back end of this week. We've got them all, but I'm just kind of leaking each week to you guys so you can see who's coming to keep the vibe really kind of popping about it. So I'm really excited. This is another amazing one. And finally, to every single one of you that has wished me all the best for tomorrow. I'm having an operation tomorrow, so I will be, there's a little bit of content that's kind of set up, but otherwise I will be unconscious all day long tomorrow because I will be going under the knife to have some surgery on my stomach. And so ideally I'll be back by the back end of the week and doing some kind of low-level engagement with people. But otherwise, I just wanted to say, genuinely, I'm not just doing this to kind of be gratitude based or anything, but I genuinely want to say thank you so much. Everyone's messages are amazing. They've been really kind. It's just a hernia. I'm, very lucky. It's not anything that really bad, but it means I'm gonna be out of action for a little bit. So I'm not trying to play it up or anything. But I will be all day tomorrow in the hospital and hopefully back and fighting fit very soon. Need to be, right? Because I've got an event in 2 weeks' time. But let's get into the questions. And thank you everyone who's jumping in on Facebook as well. So Laura, David, Anej, Carlos, Carolina, Gary, Bonsai, you're all here. So thank you very much for that. Let's jump on to questions. The first one is from Carolina Mankowski. Let's start with yours since you're watching right now. And you've asked, Richard, is it better to dominate one or two social media platforms or appear vaguely on all of them? I just can't seem to keep up. It's difficult because even if you're on a platform doing well, they then have to give themselves the edge over other platforms. A perfect example is here on Instagram. it started with Instagram. Then there was Instagram stories. Now there's IGTV and Facebook watches coming in on top of Facebook stories now. And there's so many things there. And, you know, the answer is, yeah, you have to dominate them. And it's hard to keep up. But if you don't, then other people will. That's the thing. I think what it does make you do is audit heavily what you really need to be focused on. Because you can't be on, or you can be on every platform, but you need really a team around you to make that effective. What I do think is important is make sure that you're very selective about the platforms you do go into. It's rare that you need to be on every platform. You must try them out and dabble with them. I tried Vero recently. The jury was out for a bit, but I gave it a really good crack, and I feel that it's not necessarily for me right now, so I'm kind of still there in the background. If you look at something like LinkedIn, I pivoted hard onto that at the start of this year, and it's really made a big difference for me. So that for me is the big win. The mistake, though, here, this is a big warning for everyone, but also here, Caroline, if you're on just one or two, is be very, very aware that nothing ever stays the same forever. So if you look at something like Facebook and you're doing great on that, it doesn't mean you always will, because things will change. Facebook is already changing. Algorithms will change, which means it's harder to get the traction you once did. Once upon a time, you could get crazy organic growth on a Facebook page. The reality really is you have to pay to play to do that nowadays. LinkedIn used to be kind of dead now with no noise, but it being a very good platform for content generation, it is an exceptional place to be. But you need to be in all the places that are relevant to your audience. And you need to, because Twitter's kind of great for some people right now, but for some it isn't. It might just become the next big thing again. We'd all agree that Snapchat was crushing it in 2016 and Instagram kind of was losing. Now Snapchat's there, it's still got the millions of users, but I mean, I don't know about you guys, I would always take Instagram over Snapchat now. It's got more users, but more specifically, it's happening a bit more. And Instagram's surge. So there's this ebb and flow is what I'm saying. It's the same with Facebook. You don't know where we'll be in 18 months. It could be that Facebook is just culturally not cool anymore. If you're trying to target teenagers, a lot of that, I mean, it's 2 billion active users on Facebook. It doesn't mean they're all there or as engaged in it. They might be using something else. So just be aware and trying other things, because you need to have those accounts popping should something happen. To answer your question directly, no, don't appear vaguely on anything. Do it properly or not at all. Otherwise, the half-hearted approach is not going to really get you anything. Save that time. You know, I said this to corporate business recently. They had a Twitter account and they were posting like twice a week a share of an article from their website, which obviously got no traction at all. There's no community management there. So it's like, don't do it. You'll save yourself the time because you're not going to get anything from it. You might as well not bother at all. So just think hard on that. But I think one platform is dangerous. You know, if you're making video on Facebook, pivot into a YouTube channel as well. Leverage the video on your Instagram account, because you need to have kind of the redundancy built in if one of these platforms breaks down. So hopefully that helps. But I strongly believe you need to dominate as much as you can. You'll find what's good for you after a while. But I mean, for me, it's Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Doing my best with YouTube, but I'm not going to drop YouTube altogether. I'm just doing my best with it. And you know, it's not in the top 3 platforms for me, but it's there because you never know what will happen. I hope that helps. Next question. Let's look at this one from Daniel Nunez, who are here as well on Facebook. So thanks very much. Yes, Daniel's just written a comment here on Facebook. Is the link for the LinkedIn course, I think you mean, available on therichardmoore.com? Yes. If you go to therichardmoore.com/LinkedIn, or just go to therichardmoore.com and it will be under products. You've got all of my different products, including the courses. And you click on LinkedIn. At the moment, it's just $97, so you can try it out. And like with all of my courses, if they don't have an impact, I'll just give you money back. So there's no risk. You get to try them out. And if you think they're rubbish, so then just leave. Tell me it's rubbish and I'll give you money back. It's no problem at all. I would rather than have someone feel like they've been screwed out of it, use it. The good news is overwhelmingly, to the point where literally everyone who's used it has said to me, it's been really valuable. So I'd be stunned if someone didn't find some value in it. If you're doing well in LinkedIn, it will help you hone that. If you've not started yet, it's a great place to win. So try it out. And a big thank you to literally everyone who's jumping on the course all the time. Every day I'm getting new notifications that people are buying it. So I'm really pleased. Thank you very much. Your question, Daniel, is how do you engage a prospect without getting caught up or lost in their story or issues? I know you mentioned having clarity in your mission statement. So what that was about having what's called pure signal, being really clear about what it is you focus on, such as here we've got a live stream, but it's on startup businesses. Within that today, we're looking at engagement. I'm not kind of jumping all over the place and confusing the audience. Yet as an empath and as an introvert, I find it easy to get pulled into other people's personal situations. I can't help feel compelled to fix it. How do you establish healthy boundaries in addition to lead them to independent action? It's a really good question. And the reality is that a lot of people who reach out to ask you for help, they will be needing something, Daniel. And often they know all the answers. They just need to be validated, and they need someone who maybe has to listen to their story. First off, let's have some gratitude, right? If someone's reaching out to you, it feels like, it suggests that they might see you as some kind of a rock or useful person in that respect. And if that's the case, you need to do your best to show them you are caring. I know you're the type that you would, Daniel, but show them you're caring rather than the mercenary angles. Like, last thing we want, an extreme example of it would be like, yeah, whatever, with a sob story. Are you going to buy this yet? Because that's a stupid idea. As an extreme example to prove the point. Hear them out. They want to talk, so let them. It's important. But to be practical, there are a couple of key points here. Firstly, set an agenda. Whenever I have a consulting call, say it's a 50-minute call or so, I'll set the agenda with someone new. It will usually be, right, let's get to know each other. So what I want to do first is hear your background. What do you like? What's your story? What's your kind of upbringing? This is a warm person who's come to me and decided to jump on a call. What's kind of led you to where you are now? The next thing will be let's focus then on the business or the idea you're working on at the moment, and then we'll look at how we'll leverage that. So they know there's an agenda, they know there's a time frame as well, and so that helps us to kind of direct it in the right way. But the other thing as well, Daniel, is you need to lead on these calls. Okay, you need to lead, which means you need to say, so tell me about this, and fuel the fire if you need to a bit. But also leading means very sensitively placed interruptions sometimes. Where you say, sorry, can I just stop you there? That's a really interesting point, actually. It makes me think about this, and then direct them again. If you listen, but not actively, what happens is that person firstly knows they can be talking, but you're not encouraging them in the right way. So you need to make noises, and those noises need to include you nudging them gently in this direction, now this direction, and making sure that, their answers are shorter because you go, I get it. Do you know what? Sorry to interrupt. I think what you're trying to say is this. Is that right? Then you're managing the conversation, because some people do talk a lot. You need to get the real essentials from them and really try and encourage them to elaborate as much as possible. But if you've got a talker that's going to go for 2 hours, you've got to make sure you step in a little bit to gently nudge them the right way. It's an art, but it's worth doing because it means you keep the call focused, which is ultimately what's essential at this point. So hopefully that helps. Make sure you lead. Tell them at the start as well, look, we've got an hour here, and what I really want to do to start with is really get into the detail around you. So don't hold back, but at the same time, I want to make sure that we're on point. Is that okay? Close them on you leading the conversation. They'll say, yes, that sounds great. And then you've got you've got license at that point to then kind of interrupt a bit more. So maybe that will help. But Daniel, that's a really good sign, man. If people are reaching out to you and saying, could you help me with that kind of thing? So I hope that helps. There's a few points coming through on Facebook here. Gollets, nice to see you. Multiple platforms is the best way. Totally agree. Eileen Kelly, Richard, what 3 qualities do you think will help you connect with customers? Can you give me 3 benefits for businesses? So 3 qualities help you connect with customers. First and foremost, you need to spend time engaging with them, and the quality is that you care. And the engagement isn't, hey, thanks for the post, or hi, how's it going, or something, or buy my stuff in a kind of a pre-written DM. It's helping that person by seeing what they're talking about and giving them some value as well. I think the quality of caring is really important. The second quality is seemingly having all the time in the world for that person. No matter how stressed or busy you are, you need to try your best to give these people time. And, I find that I have my favorites, and I have people who are close by and maybe customers and things like that. But as much as is possible, there are no DMs left unanswered. It may take a bit of time, it may take a couple of days, but I always try and get to everyone. And rather than, yeah, thanks or something, I will try and engage and actually give someone, you know, the time of day. Again, it's a real gratitude thing. If someone's dared to actually reach out to me and suggest that I might be of value to them, I really, really want to go all in helping them out. And you know what? It seems weird. There's a business owner actually running a couple of businesses, making sure that all these things are happening. On top of that, spending so much time engaging with people, but actually that's the blood of the business if you think about it. So the second point there, Eileen, is to make sure we're focusing on spending time with people as well, so giving them that time of day. And the third one, I suppose, what was the point again? About 3 qualities to help you connect with customers. It's also working the network. So I think another great quality is bringing your network in and being fine with saying, do you know what, John, you should speak with Sarah because she's really good at this, and connecting people gives you a great feeling, and then they love you for that as well. Be cool with passing people on to other directions if there is someone out there who can kind of help you out. I think being right in the center of community and kind of helping people move around and things like that, it really makes a difference. People see you as part of the conversation rather than some kind of parasite just trying to take. Yeah, hopefully that helps, Eileen. Those 2 things are really important. A lot of good questions here. I'll come back in a sec. Daniel, yes, I hate interrupting. Back on your question, it is tough, but if you do it in the right way, interrupting is fine. You just say, you will talk over a little bit and you say, look, I'm so sorry for interrupting. That's a really good point there. And so it's the kind of the soft lead in, and then you can go from there. So hopefully that will help. Just before we get on to the next question, I just wanted to grab those of you who have just joined recently to let you know I'm announcing very soon, to the back end of this week, the next of the 4 of our speakers at the Entrepreneur Business Live event. That will be on the 25th of July. It is free. If you are in London on 25th of July, between 6:30 and 8:30 in the evening on that Wednesday, do come down, and the Eventbrite links here on Instagram or in one of the posts recently on Facebook, but you can also check out the Eventbrite for Entrepreneur Business Live. Also, those of you, there are quite a few, those of you who are in the Entrepreneur Business Club, the premium group we are now, I've decided we are going to pivot from Slack into Facebook. Okay, so there's going to be a Facebook group happening soon. We'll all migrate over. I will run that myself. That move over, so it'll be absolutely fine. And also thank you to everyone who's been so kind about the operation I've got tomorrow. So many wonderful comments. Thank you very much. A few comments here from Judy Fox on Instagram. Close them on you leading the conversation. Precisely. That's how you do. That's how you actually lead, is have someone sold on the fact you're going to be running it. So you need to do that at the start. And you've also added, or a Jamaican air horn can be used for subtle interruption. Those who don't know, Judy Fox has a noise on her computer or mobile that she presses this button, and there's this huge air horn that goes off. And you had to be there to see it, but there's a post recently on LinkedIn that explains it in depth, I suppose, by you watching it. So thanks very much. You're right. Let's go on to the next question from Anna Sabino. Hello, you've made me migrate from LinkedIn. That's huge. Looking forward to more gold. So that's really kind of her. So yeah, Anna and I connect on LinkedIn, and Facebook's happening a lot as well. So she's come over. Question, are newsletters still relevant? How do you keep engaging and increase open rates? Look, all things are relevant if you make them work. Some people actually do really well with direct mail, as in through the post. I think it's absurd personally, but if you know what you're doing, then fine. Here's my thing about newsletters. The ones I pay attention to are the ones where the person sending the newsletter has content I consume elsewhere. There are a few people I would consume a newsletter for and nothing else. If you want to start a newsletter, the win is this. Do not just create a newsletter and hope to organically bring on board your email list for your website, for example. Your massive amount of focus on content should be bringing warm people to your newsletter. And then when they're not receiving, say, the weekly newsletter, they're receiving great content from you. So perhaps you're doing a retarget campaign against the newsletter list of great, amazing value content. Think about it. In between receiving those newsletters each week, you don't want to go cold. You want that people to be consuming the great content you have. So make sure you're doing things to keep them warm in a retarget campaign. So Facebook ad that actually isn't selling anything. It's just promoting your content, your value-led content to that list of people, which you can import from a CSV file. You know, having that done and set up means that those people are going to feel very good about you, and then they will want to open your newsletter. Think hard about this. Think about those people you love consuming content of. Then imagine if you receive an email in your inbox from them, you're very likely to open it up if you're bought into them. If you're not, you're not going to read the email. And here's the thing. I think I'm right with this, because those that only send emails or do very little content beyond the email, after a while, it just gets a bit dull, because it's the same medium, you see, and people need variety. So if you think about it, it really is important to remember that a newsletter on its own, like any content on its own, just gets a bit dull. Okay, so look, there's the live stream here on Instagram, but throughout the week there's other content as well. Otherwise, it's like once a week, this guy with his Q&A is just not enough. People need variety for different moods and different times of the week and so on. Okay, so that, I feel, is the best way to get the results. Keep them very warm through content so they are compelled to open it. It's an email from this person. Even if you go away from emails and just look at content-based newsletter emails and look at emails in general, think about the people whose emails you open because you just feel you should. You know, you get an email from your sister or you get an email from your boss. You tend to open them because there's something driving you to do it. It might be fear. It might be that you just like that person. And it's the same principle here. If you drive people to love being in orbit around you and love your content, then they're going to be way more compelled to open your newsletter. So part of the strategy behind an e-newsletter should be great content. And at the bottom of your e-newsletter, you want to suggest to people that they go check out this content as well, because it keeps them warm. So hopefully that helps. That's the way I would look at that. Next question is from Andrew Hall. Where does one engage to set up for 2019? Good question. It was interesting because back in the 2017, I really was like, I need to find the post one day, but I called it. I was like, look, LinkedIn is going to really go. And I feel that that's a great place for it. It doesn't mean that other platforms aren't a great place to work, but really LinkedIn's working for me very well at the moment. Where does one engage to set up for 2019? I don't know, Andrew, is the answer. And no one does, which is why you need to cover the downsides. Facebook, if you think about the last few months, had a bit of a scandal and scare with Cambridge Analytics, right, with data. Culturally, they have such an overwhelmingly large audience of 2 billion people that they're kind of okay, and time will heal that. But it shows how dangerous things can be. And there will be plenty of people who left as a result or changed their belief in using it. And the reality is that eventually a platform like Facebook either will die or just not become relevant anymore, not become cool. And it's possible. We don't know that. And there'll be people out there many years ago who are like, how the hell could MySpace ever not be relevant? Because it's people connecting, being social. But there's difference. It's like saying, why in 2007 were Blackberries ever going to be anything but killing it? Because they weren't relevant anymore after the iPhone came out. Or rather, they were relevant technically in that they were valuable or useful for a practical purpose. But in terms of being cool, which is really what people want when they buy a phone, they weren't helping. And so that's where the pivot happened. All I'm saying is it may well be that Facebook isn't doing so well then. It just might not be cool anymore. You know, and that happens a lot across the place. Meerkat, Periscope, these things all change, you see. Some things don't take, some things take and do really well, and then they just fade and don't become cool for a while. Again, Instagram was a little bit on the down for a bit, and now it's really bounced back. It's right up there. So, I mean, LinkedIn is the best example of that, and it's still in the kind of the infancy of its resurrection right now. But, you know, it's been arguably dormant for a decade. So the answer is I don't know, but you need to be ready. Engaging at the very least, however, as a philosophy, Andrew, should revolve around you focusing on a hardcore of people who love your stuff, who believe in you as a trustworthy, interesting character who actually cares, because you're demonstrating it through direct messages, through calls offline, you know, and speaking to them at meetings and things like that, and just being part of their family. Having that cultivated is what mattered. bit matters, because if you do well with those people and then you pivot to another platform, they'll go with you. You know, there are so many people, for instance, on LinkedIn, and Anna Sabino is a good example of that. People on LinkedIn who have come over to Facebook, and she even wrote, "You've made me migrate from LinkedIn. That's huge." There you go. And so the point is that, you know, people will move around, especially if you are showing value there. So that's important. Make sure you're ready. I hope that answers your question as best I can. You never know where the platforms will be. Okay. Let's see if there's any more points here on Facebook. Yeah, thank you for the great tips, Eileen. That's no worries at all. And Leandro, nice to see you. Latanya Riggs, not seen you in ages. Thank you very much for hopping on as well. And right, let's carry on with a couple more questions. So Ian Tisker has said, this semi-relates to engagement, okay, as long as it's relevant, but also social media content development. Firstly, how do you take a purely educational post and make it engaging for people? Wow, this is so important. I talked about this with a company recently because they were worried about producing content about their product that they said, in their words, was dull. They said it's a valuable product, but it's a dull product. So why would anyone be interested in it? And it's like, you're missing the point. You don't talk about your product then so much, or you don't try and make the product the interesting thing. You make you the interesting thing. You are the point, the leverage point where it becomes interesting. Think about it. Think about what you're watching right now. I'm talking about startup businesses. I'm talking about sales tips a lot of the time. I'm talking about how to close things, how to build engagement. And for some, that's fascinating. For others, that's really dull. But if you have personality, or if you try and bring energy to it, or if you give dynamics or some level of intensity because it's something that's interesting to you, that is infectious. Okay. And so whether you like it or not, you can get people whipped up with interest against quite classically dull areas. And I think if you look on LinkedIn, there's some people on Facebook, of course, there's some people who are really turning corners and turning heads, I suppose, with classically quite dull areas. I'm not going to name any because I don't want to offend people, but those things that would seem a bit dry as subject matter, what I'm saying is that these people, by very virtue of the fact that they're putting their passion into it and their energy, it gives a lot. So here's the same point. I mean, what you want to do is think to yourself, how I need to plan, but how do I grab attention? You know, if I'm going to look like everyone else, when I expect an average result. And a good example of this is someone I work with who is a personal trainer, and he could just do his 15, cardio tips for your day or something like that. And it might be a bit dull and average because everyone's doing things like that. So what he can do is, if there's a video that will make it a bit more interesting, he can talk during the video as well to bring personality. He can write a great headline that's eye-grabbing. You know, rather than having "Good morning, everyone" as the headline or the first few words, he's got something interesting like, you know, these are 3 mistakes that people make when they're working their abs or something like that, because it brings intrigue. When you leverage human curiosity, okay, and you become someone that can give what's called social currency. And social currency is where someone feels they need to share you or kind of leverage you to kind of show themselves in a positive light to their friends. When you can do that, suddenly what you're talking about doesn't matter so much. A great example is a cultural icon like Warren Buffett or Charlie Munger, who are investors in the real kind of look at the data kind of thing, kind of persuasion. And yet, for many, they are fascinating and very, very exciting because they've got really good dry wit, you know, and they're winners, and there's really interesting philosophies there as well. So you've got to bring your own thing, Ian, is what I'd suggest. How do you make purely educational posts engaging for people? To be practical, a great headline. If it's video, a great thumbnail as well. You can use hashtags too, but what you can also do is, again, spend time in the community. And if you spend time in the community, you can build this kind of group or hardcore of people who are like, do you know what? I like this stuff and I like how you deliver it because I'd never looked at it that way, Richard, or no one's put it that way before. Or, you know, you make this so accessible. I remember once one of the first videos I did on YouTube was about the VRIN process. The J-bar is a very kind of as a technical process for checking if something's going to be competitive or not. And there was a student over in the States who wrote a comment saying, I've been learning about this. My professors are all complicating it. And it was just put so concisely. Thank you so much. And sometimes just being simple is the thing that gives you the leverage, because that's the bit that's unique, you know. So you're just going to think, if you feel you have nothing that makes your subject area unique, then bring yourself. Because for every 500 people who don't really dig your style, one of them will quite like you. Simple as that. And as I was recently on a podcast, it just come out today, and I've posted it in my Facebook page today, or it's been posted there, with Kurt Mercadante, and I actually made this point. As like, if you have a hardcore people who really dig you because they like what you're all about, you could take a picture of yourself shitting on a toilet and they'll still like it. And the reason why is because they're bought into you. And if someone's bought into you, they will want to learn. Perhaps the best example of this is if you look at school children and subjects that perhaps they don't like. I had a physics teacher when I was about 15. And for many, physics isn't particularly interesting. But this guy went over and above what you'd expect. It was his personality and delivery, not what he was teaching, that made it interesting. For instance, we were learning about different things, and one time he had like this bomb disposal group come to the school, and they showed us how they diffused a bomb. I'm like, couldn't be more captivated at that moment. And they did it through the way of explaining how a bomb worked, as opposed to just doing the theory. And so sometimes it's just delivery, and it's not what you're talking about, it's how you comes across. Sometimes just your energy. Sometimes it's just something different, you know. So just think about that. I could go on all night about that, but you can look at things like production and the words you use. But ultimately, if you put yourself out enough, there will be always some people like, I just really like this person, you know, and that makes a difference. Carolina, you've just put a comment here on Facebook. Engagement is infectious as well, making people feel like they're a part of community, as Richard does so well here. Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, look, the entrepreneur business group on Facebook is an amazing community with really great people all helping each other out, and that does get people it creates this intangible sense of kind of momentum that gets people moving, and I think that's really valuable. So look at personalities, look at people, look at engaging with humans. If you get that bit right, which you are programmed to do pretty well, in that, you know, you're a human and a master of the art of communication by now. If you just do that in a really normal, real way, you tend to find that people like you. And when that happens, they want to hear what you have to talk about. Okay, that's the way to look at it. Any more questions there? A couple more. So let's get on to the question up here. So let's take the next one, which was Laura Bramlett Wilkerson. Laura, thank you very much, though. You sent me a DM last night. Hopefully the answer I gave you was a useful one as well. But you've also added here, how are you drawing in your crowd? If they don't know you are out there, and thank you for being great. You're welcome. I like being great if you think I am. So how are you drawing your crowd if they don't know you're there? You need leverage. This is the mistake. I talked about this earlier, actually. If you put a post on LinkedIn or on Twitter, and you've shared a link to a YouTube video and you don't do anything with it, as in you put the link on and you hope it will just go viral, you're missing the point, because you need to leverage more than just the platform itself. Where are your hashtags? That can work. Where is your, as I said, your snappy headline or thumbnail? Where does that come from? That would help as well. However, the big thing is that you need to have leverage in the form of people who are advocates for you. If you're starting out and you haven't got any engagement, you need to find people who are interested in your space. And when you find them, you need to engage with them, as in a DM, not, hey, buy my stuff, or hey, could you like my page, or would you mind liking this post? It's not cool. You can't ask straight away. You have to give first, which means you say, hi, how's your week going? I saw that you were writing about this today, or I saw that you're interested in this space. So you get connections that are relevant to you. And what we need to be thinking about is, there's things like hashtags, but if you keep your network warm, if you're constantly spending time offline, as in not on posts and things, just engaging with these people, like every week have 3 or 4 calls with people. I had a call just before this. I have, just looking at my board, I have another 3 calls this afternoon with people that are in my network, that when I then produce a piece of content, they're seeing me. They're like, Richard's produced something and he's a good guy. We just had a phone call. We get on really well and it'll help boost you. So you draw in a crowd by having a group of people that you're, really helping and kind of giving a lot of love to. If anyone likes your comment, so for instance, Laura, you're the perfect example. You found me maybe through a piece of content or something like that. But what's happened is when you then sent me a DM, I'm all over it like a rash. It's very easy to ignore these things. But I was like, she sent me a voice message. So I answered a question with a voice message as well, because I'm going to give them more value than just type something out. Okay. I put out a voice message and then we did a couple of messages back to each other. And now Laura has showed up to write this question as well. You see, so this kind of thing, it does have a knock-on effect. But also, it's not just, the results aren't just the sum of the people you engage with. Because what happens is for every, say, 5 people you engage with who really like you, they have a network as well, remember. And the more they like your stuff and engage with your stuff and comment on your things and talk about you, the more their network sees the same. And then, suddenly now I've got 5 more people who are interested in me, who are second connections further down the line, who are also showing an interest in what we're doing. Do you see what I mean? So you need to work your network as warm as possible, because they're the people who are going to help you draw in your crowd. They help you draw in your crowd, because if you create shareable, interesting content, they want to be part of it. And as a result, then more people will come in as well. That's the way to look at it. Okay. Let's look at 2 more questions before we finish. So firstly, and the point I was trying to make there, Laura, is that you keep the audience warm. Don't just engage people once, you keep them warm. So I will buzz around you a bit longer if you don't mind. That's how it works. So Danny Patrick has asked, and by the way, I think you were with me for one of the first, if not the first, Startup Business Q&A. So happy 102nd if that was the case. I sometimes feel there is a fine line when engaging with prospective clients. What is the best way to be genuine and passionate without being viewed as preachy or pushy? I've been asked this before. I feel the answer to this, really quickly, is instead of being overtly kind of rah-rah and motivational without anything else, you need to add depth and substance, Danny. So in order to be genuine and passionate, but be seen in the right light, you need to bring war stories, bring evidence, bring data, bring practical value. LinkedIn's a perfect example of this. What I'm doing there is I've established already, very quickly actually, I've established and am establishing a brand around being a guy that knows sales very well, because I've done it a long time with a lot of success. So the focus on sales tips and kind of helping people understand engagement and communication, things like that in that space, with stories in there, with practical examples and so on, positions me as someone who does know what he's doing. If I was just doing the whole, you can do it, go and sell, you can do it, it would only appeal to a certain group of people. But the idea is if you give practical examples and then you share things like, testimonials or a war story, or someone said this once and this happened, you move to a place where people are like, the guy has got depth, the guy has got evidence, so it creates credibility. And then with that, you're in a place where, you're much more, prospective clients are much more able to warm to you and feel you're approachable, because you're all in on just sharing stuff. It's not bragging, it's just, I've done this. Another technique as well, Danny, is just to literally say stuff like that. I find myself doing it all the time. It's saying, now I'm not trying to brag or show off. This is just evidence based on me doing it a long time. I've been selling and online since like 2002, 2003. So it means that I'm just good at it because I've done it for a long time. I'm not saying I'm God at it. I'm just saying, if you're on the pitch long enough, you're good at stuff. And that's how I would deliver it. Then people are like, okay, cool, that's fair. And it's very few people out there who are like, can't really, who are trying to compete with that, I suppose. So that's what I would say. Think hard about practical value. Give evidence, give data, give depth and substance, and then people will see you as much more credible if that helps. Let's do 2 more. So Nadine Levet Langlois asked, how do you choose which people to initially invest that first phone call with? Okay, so how do I put this? So content that you put out is like fishing. You're putting content, so it's like the bait you're throwing out. This sounds really awful, but this is what it is, I suppose. The content you're throwing out is the bait you're throwing out. And then you get lots of different people taking nibbles of your content. If someone takes a nibble of your content, as in they engage, they like it, and you engage back, so what happens, you throw more content, and then they nibble again, and they keep coming back, that's a really good sign. That means they're in orbit around you. That means they're kind of floating past, they saw your stuff, and they're like, I'll stay around, I'll stick around for more. As long as you keep throwing food out, and they like that food, they'll stick around. There'll be people who take a nibble, don't like what you've thrown out, and they'll swim off, okay? So when you keep throwing out that content, and they keep taking nibbles, they're validating to you that they're interested. And you're validating to them that it was a worthwhile endeavor engaging with you, okay? So they are people that you want to then take away from the content. So you put your net out, if you like, and you have those private direct messages or hop online for a call with them. Taking that view is a really good idea because that person's now warm and now in a really good place to have a conversation with them and see where it goes from there. Do that regularly enough. And when I first started consulting online years ago now, I would be doing genuinely like 20 new conversations every day. I'd have all these chat windows open. I'd be speaking to as many as I could. And, you know, for every person that has that chat with you, you move, you know, there'll be several like, this is really valuable. Thank you so much. And then of course you can explore working together. Okay. That's a really important way of doing it. Hopefully that helps Nadine, but just remember that, you know, your content's like you're throwing out the bait, throwing out the food. You want to look at who's nibbled, then who's come back for more. That's why your content game has to be relentless and always out there. Last question, let's finish up because I need to finish up. I'm getting a little bit sore now. It's time to give myself a rest ahead of tomorrow's operation. Anna Suricio, big shout out to you. I hope you're having a nice holiday as well. So thanks very much, Anna. I'm giving a shout out because she's helped me immeasurably in organising the Entrepreneur Business Live event on the 25th. So again, free event with 4 speakers focusing on a wonderful set of things. We're looking at branding, we're looking at LinkedIn, we're looking at selling. We're going to look at content production. We're also going to look at mobile ads and things like that. And there's an hour of networking as well. And there's free beer. So if you can make the free event on the 25th, check out Eventbrite and you'll see it under Entrepreneur Business Live on the 25th of July in London. Anna has asked, what is the best way to maintain engagement? How do you go from a like to a transaction of services? So this is perfectly explained on the Monetize You course as a direct plug there. Go to richardmoore.com and it'll explain it. But the thing is that if someone's, like I've just been saying in Nadine's question, if someone is throwing you some show or demonstration of interest, you've got to return the favor by giving them more value. And I think jumping into a DM is a really good thing because now it's personal. Whip the phone out and record a video or audio of you saying, thanks so much. You know, I really value that you gave me that engagement today. I saw that. And how's your week going? Just get a conversation going. It's a really good idea to do that. And if you do it often enough, you're putting enough people in the funnel that eventually there'll always be people who are like, I just love what you do. Because the stars have aligned, because you're reaching thousands every day with all the different content, all the different platforms. And if you engage them enough, people will come back to you and be like, I love what you do. And then they'll be like, can we get on a call or something? And you do it enough, like I have LinkedIn alone in the last 4 months, and you move to a great place where people are like, can we hop on a call, or could you come in and do a talk with our business or something like that, you see? So there's a lot more to it than that, but it's in short, you keep them warm. You keep giving them more value, so they almost feel like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm getting so much for you. Then they know that you are the person for them as and when they need the service. Okay, I'm going to finish there. I need to have a bit some painkillers and move on to a couple of other things as well. But thank you so much, everyone on Instagram for joining. Thank you also to everyone on Facebook and on YouTube, and everyone on the podcast as well. Have a wonderful day. Keep tuned in the coming days about the work I'm doing with moving the Entrepreneur Business Club over from Slack to Facebook. And those of you who are wondering what's going on in the next couple of days, I'm going to go a bit quiet and off the radar as I recover from the surgery. So thank you very much for watching, and all of the support is amazing. Have a massive week, whatever you're doing, and I'll catch you on the other side. Take care. Bye-bye.